Good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing? I feel like I'm going to talk to this side over here. Buenos dias. Good morning, everybody. My name is Daniel G. Garza. I am pretty familiar with UCI. Some of you might or might not know me. I usually do the HIV education and prevention classes for the Student Health Centers. I work very close with Beth in Limaki, if anybody knows her. Good morning. How's the burritos? I haven't had mine because I don't like to eat before I speak, because then I start burping. And are they good? Yeah. All right, cool. I'm going to have mine right after. And make sure you go take a picture. I just took my picture over at the booth over there. It's pretty cool. I tend to forget to take a picture, so I don't. Let me tell you a little bit about me. So my name is Daniel G. Garza. I'm originally from Mexico, up in Monterrey. Any Mexicans in the group? No? Just me? Awesome. I am an advocate. I do HIV, and I'm going to step away from here. I do HIV and anal cancer advocacy for the most part. I also have an ostomy bag. Can't see it, but I also talk about ostomy and how we live with that. And all this will make sense in just a minute, so don't get bored with me just yet. I also am a life coach. I do trainings, and I do energy work. I'm a Reiki master. So that's how I keep my mental health, and this is how it's going to connect. I'm also an actor and a stand-up comic. So if I try to be funny, it's because I always think I'm on stage to do jokes. So please, if I say something you think it's funny, I intend it to be funny. So please laugh. And I believe that mental health, I'm 51. At this stage of my life, I've dealt with a lot of things, so I have to make a joke of it. Otherwise, I'll break down, if that makes sense, right? She's laughing over there, she knows what I'm talking about. So let's start from the beginning. I'm Mexican. I was raised in Texas. I'm a Texas boy. That's where I'm wearing my boots. Immigrants, my parents, and just I'm saying all this so we can find the similarities in the group. My parents are immigrants. My dad was born in Texas, but was raised in Mexico, so he has a very Mexican way of thinking. My mom was from Mexico. So when we moved here, I was 3 years old. So I was already, from the beginning, there was already some mental health issues going on, because I was raised to be Mexican, but then I would go into the world and I had to be American. And it was very traumatizing to be able to do that, because I was, and we've all heard this, I was too white to be Mexican and too Mexican to be American. And that from the beginning, I think for a lot of us, you don't have to raise your hand if you want to, for a lot of us, right from the beginning, where we're like, dang, I'm dealing with some stuff. I have to, when people talk about dual personalities, you're like, right here, let's go for it. Second, I knew very early on, I think I must have been like 6 or 7 when I realized my sexuality. I knew that I liked Timmy more than I liked Mary, and I didn't know why, but everybody kept telling me that I was wrong. Not necessarily directly to me, because I was too young to say that, but indirectly. How many of us have parents who make, and this is a sign of the times too. My parents, I was born in 1970. I know some of you are like, what's that? It's a year. Look it up, it's for real. It's before the 2000s, so look it up. Back then, sexuality, diversity, pronouns, that was, nobody thought about that. Particularly in immigrant families. If you have one, you know what I'm talking about. It's a he and a she, and that's it. If you think anything different, you're wrong. And you're just wrong. So right from the beginning, growing up, I was like, but I don't want to play with the boys' football. I want to go play the Barbie greenhouse, because it was sparkly and it was cool. And I could make it butch if I needed to, because I had Tonka trucks too. So all of that from the beginning, my family was unintentionally started to stir things in my head, making me feel uncomfortable. Then we go to school, and my dad was very proactive about me learning English. He's like, we'll teach you Spanish at home, you teach it English. So then the other kids saw me as weird, like, why are you not in my English classes? Why are you with all the white kids? But then you went and hang out with all the white, no offense, and I'm just gonna put this in terms from 1970, so yeah, we'll freshen this up a little bit. But back then, it was like, why are you hanging out with the white kids? You're not white. And you're like, well, because my dad won't let me hang out with the Mexican kids, because he wants me to be better. Does that make sense? He wants me to be more. Now comes the pressure at school. It's like, okay, so now that you're in this group, we need you to do more. We need you to be better. And for those of you, some of you know, like, When you don't fit in, you have to do twice the work to just be at that same level. So as a little kid, you're not understanding. It's like, I just want to play with my friends. I'm in the second grade. Why is all this pressure on me? And I want to go play hopscotch. Why do I have to go play football when I don't like football? And why is everybody making jokes about me wanting to be a little more femme? What's so wrong about that? Are we good so far? Everybody good? And I'm going to look back because I have notes because I get nervous and I forget things. So all right from the beginning, Latino, gay, knew that I was gay, but I didn't know the word gay. Catholic, any religious people in the room, right there. God's watching you. Diosito te está viendo. It's like, dang, I can't do anything because everything that I think and everything that I can potentially say is wrong because you're telling me it's wrong. And you're telling me it's wrong, God's telling me it's wrong. For a 5-year-old kid who is just trying to discover the world, that's a lot of pressure, right? Never mind going to school and then having to deal with the kids at school because now you start developing your personality. And you're like, I know who I am. But all the kids in the room are like, no, but you're not like the rest of us. And you must be weird. You're weird. We don't want to play with you. Like, why do you want to go to the house? So it starts developing, right? It starts accumulating. So when people talk about, oh, mental health starts when, no, I believe that mental health starts from when we're young. I don't think the parents really intend for us to get there, but they do. And by the way, can somebody tell me when it's close to time? Because I don't have my clock ready. I lost track of time. Awesome, thank you. Everybody good so far? Everybody good? All right, cool. So growing up, I grew up in Dallas. Dallas, for the most part, was a very... Everything you think about Dallas, Texas is true. Let me just put this out there. Everything you think about it. Example A. But back in the 80s when I was growing up as a kid, look it up, there was a show, actually there was a review, Dallas, the show Dallas. There was an original one. And everything that you saw in that show about people being either very masculine and big or very feminine and pretty was very realistic. And the worst thing about it is we believed it. Like if you lived in Dallas, you were like, yeah, that's how we are. We're big in Texas. The kids, as I was growing up, started to realize that there was something different about me. And I started to realize that there was something different about me. I didn't know until I was about 9 or 10 what the word gay meant. And I didn't, for a lot, if there's any other gay people in the room, gay is not usually the first word that you learn. Right? It's not the first word that people yell out at you. And then when they do, it's not meant in a kind way. Now, for those of you that don't know Mexican culture very well, there is a whole line of movies in the 70s that they were all about drug dealers and hookers and gay people. But the gay people were always the attendants or the receptionist, or they worked at a club and they worked in the back of the room and they were mistreated and their money was taken and they were beaten up and they were abused. So as a little guy, I was probably about 10 watching these movies, I started to think, that's the only thing that's available to me. Growing up, that's all I'm going to be able to be because I'm gay and people are going to know that I'm gay. So I have no future. So mental health, again, and I'm using, I should have had a guy with all these darts flowing because those are darts that start flowing into your head, right? I started to think, well, I have no future. I have no future. I'm probably going to be working in some theater or in some bar and people are going to abuse me and I'm never going to have a relationship. Okay. And honestly, that's the way that I felt when I was like 10 or 11. Okay, that's my life. Like that is going to be my life. I will never have children. I will never get married. Nobody's really going to love me. Because in the back of my head, I kept thinking, why are my parents showing me these movies? Are they like letting me know that this is where my life is going? Does that make sense? So again, more darts into the head of mental health. I was bullied as a kid, and I was molested. And my molesters were the people that bullied me, which were also my friends. Folks. Because those are the kids in the neighborhood that my parents were like, go hang out with him. because he plays soccer and you need to do something manly. Not knowing that these were the same people that were taking advantage of me and hurting me. So very early on, there was back in the 80s, there were the after-school special movies, and they're always about. I wish they had them now because I think we can use them right now. But these were always movies about kids that were bullied, that were hurt, that were being targeted, and how they overcame life. And I'm like, I'm awesome. And in 30 minutes, their life was resolved. And I was like, I wish my life was resolved in 30 minutes. Oh, before I go to that, sorry. I was going to talk about alcohol and drugs. There's a lot of little triggers in my story, so if anything bugs you, I will not be insulted. If you have, oh, by the way, this is interactive. If at any moment you have a question or you want to throw something out, please let me know. This is interactive. I want you guys to be part. I know it's a lot for Brandon at 9 o'clock in the morning while you're eating your burrito, but I'm sure they're going to serve you lunch later, and I won't be here to talk about it. So I'm going to talk about, I'm going to say I was about 10 years old, 10 or 11, and my parents were going out for the weekend, for the night. They were going out that night, and I was old enough to take care of myself. No babysitter needed. I said, yes. So they ordered me a pizza, and I was going to watch my favorite TV shows. And I learned, I don't know why this is so exciting, but I had learned how to make Kool-Aid, which was so awesome for me, because I knew just how much sugar to put in to make it taste good. So my parents leave the house, and I decide I want to get drunk. I decided at 10 years old that I wanted to get drunk. And I'm writing my memoir right now, and this is one of the stories in the book, is I thought at 10 years old, I am being bullied, I am being harassed, I am being molested, I don't have very many friends at school. My parents probably know I'm gay, but they're not being very supportive of it. But I see people drinking, so if people drink and they get happy, right? You're following me right now, you know where I'm going. Then I'm going to put alcohol in my Kool-Aid, and I'm going to get happy. So talk about drinking the Kool-Aid. So I did. My parents left, pizza arrived, I spiked my Kool-Aid, drank a couple of big glasses. I don't remember what it was. It could have been vodka or rum. It could have just been water in there, but I thought I was drunk. The worst thing that happened was I had the worst hangover the next morning. And if you're a drinker, you know what I'm talking about. I realized that it didn't make me happy. And that was the first time that I acknowledged the fact that anything out there could not influence what was really going on in here. Does that make sense? Like, and here's where it gets tricky, because all the negative stuff that was out in the world, man, that's quick. We catch on to those negative things quick. We learn the negative stuff right away. But the good stuff, we don't pick on that. Because I could not remember a teacher telling me that I was smart. I couldn't remember my parents telling me, we're proud of you. I couldn't remember anybody saying, man, you're really good at this. All I could remember was people, and I'm going to trigger here, people calling me a fag, joto, queer. You're too slow, you're too dumb, you're too short, you're too feminine. So as a kid trying to just survive in the world, with all that negative, it just got overwhelming. So what I did was, my older sister, I have two sisters, I'm the baby, and if you're thinking, are you spoiled? Very spoiled. I have two sisters, my older sister's 21 years older than me, and she still lived in Mexico. So I decided, after watching an after-school special where this kid was like, I'm going to take charge of my life. I'm like, I'm going to take charge of my life. So I went to my parents, I said, I'm moving to Mexico. And they were like, what? I said, I'm moving with my sister in Mexico. They're like, why? I'm like, because I have more friends over there, because people like me better. Now here's the cool thing about it. Here's where the Dallas reference comes back. Because they knew I was in Dallas. In Mexico, I was eccentric. Ooh. Somebody would have looked at me, yeah. This is the cool thing about reinventing yourself. Because now in Dallas, I wasn't gay, I wasn't effeminate, I wasn't weird. He's de Dallas. He's from Dallas. He's eccentric. Oh, okay, you're in the States. Gotcha, man. So all of a sudden, I was popular. All of a sudden, people wanted to be around me. But I still couldn't tell my family that I was gay. I still couldn't talk about my sexuality. Because what I hadn't taken into consideration is that now you're in Mexico. Everybody's macho in Mexico. We're all men. Machismo, very alive. 2022, it still exists. But back in 1980, what was it, 1981, 82, I had to step up even more in the game. I couldn't tell people who I really was. So in Mexico, you do 3 years of junior high and then 2 years of high school. So for the first 3 years of junior high, I had girlfriends. Like I had girlfriends. It was usually somebody that set me up with somebody. Like, somebody likes you, she wants to be your girlfriend. Okay. Like, what are you now? Like, you want to hold hands? Like, I'm going to make a joke here, because when I say I was really gay when I was a kid, I was really gay. Like, all my girlfriends were like, he was so sweet, he never made a move on me. I'm like, because I didn't want to. This is a side story. In high school, I smoked. You're like, what? Yeah, I smoked. And one of my girlfriends in high school was like, I don't like it when you smoke. I'm not going to kiss you. And I was like, well, too bad for you, honey, because I'm gorgeous. Anyway, so that's just a side story. Let me make my notes here. Everybody good? Everybody good? Any questions right now? If I bore you, please don't be afraid to just leave. So I started rebelling. People in the neighborhood where I lived in Mexico, the older men started to discover that I was a little different, and it didn't take them long to figure out what was going on. So it was usually friends, dads that molested me. So I was molested all through junior high and high school. But I didn't know that it was molestation. I just thought it was being really kind to me. Because remember those movies that I watched where people didn't love them, or people didn't like me, people were not, all of a sudden there was all these men that were very affectionate. And come on, we're all teenagers, and our hormones are raging, and there's somebody there paying attention to you, and you're like, yes, do we have to hide it? Okay, whatever, but man, somebody's paying attention to me, and somebody loves me, even if it's for a couple of minutes in the backseat of a car, but I feel loved. I didn't understand that was wrong. I didn't understand. And over the years, I had to go to a lot of therapy to realize that it was not my fault, that I did not know that I should not have been exposed to that. But I didn't know any better. But again, we go back to that little kid that just didn't know. So I started drinking because I hung out with older people. I started drinking. And I just put it out, I'm 14 years clean sober today. So I will be 15, God bless, 15, June 21st, I will be 15 clean sober. Thank you. And I'm throwing a quinceañera, by the way, just so you know. That's how Mexican I am and how gay I can be. And we're getting a dress and a wig and the whole thing. I'll post pictures. You can see it on social media. But I started drinking because I hung out with older people and they were drinking and I wanted to be cool and I wanted somebody to just care for me. And if you were going to go drinking and I wanted your attention, I'll drink too. So I started really drinking when I was about 16 years old. And I think that's when I started smoking. And the smoking was just to be cool. So I went to be cool like the other kids in school. I started skipping class and doing all the things that you're not supposed to. Don't skip class, guys. Do not skip. Don't smoke either. If you smoke, I feel like a dad now. Stop it. Or a very young-looking uncle, which I don't prefer. But the alcohol started, and it didn't stop. I drank for about 20 years, 21 years. So I graduated in Mexico, came back to the States, lived in Dallas, met my first boyfriend. First love. Who's met their first love? If you're smiling, you've met them. You know what I'm talking about. First love. So here I am, a 20-year-old kid. I snuck into a bar. Don't do that either. But I snuck into a bar, and I never thought I was going to have that first love feeling, right? Butterflies and the bubbles. And so I met my then boyfriend. This is, now I'm 51, so 31 years ago. Dang, I'm old. This story is older than all of you. Ah, man, that's old. But I still look good, right? Just a little bit of lighting, please. So my first boyfriend, picture. 1990, Dallas, Texas, a bar. I don't remember the name of the bar. I'll remember in a minute. But the bar. And I was supposed to meet some friends there for some drinks because it was a birthday. And nobody showed up, only me. I think now that I probably went to the wrong bar, and that's how that started. Because it really, I'm GPS. Yeah, I get lost. And back then there was no GPS. So I show up to the bar, I'm playing a video game, because there were arcades back then, and this guy walks up to me and says, hey, you want to play together? And I was like, sure. But I was such a dork that I just thought, oh, he just wants to play arcades. Little did I know, wink, wink. And so we walk into the dance floor, because there was a drag show, and he leans over and he goes, can I kiss you? And I was like, oh my God, this is like in the movies. Like, this is like in the movies, like, the guy, the rom-com. I always wanted to be in a rom-com, because I'm an actor too, and of course, like, that's perfect. The guy's like, he was tall, he's like, can I kiss you? And I'm like, shit, this is my moment. Like, they don't show this in the Mexican movies, but I'm in America now, yes. So he leans over and kisses me, and just when he kisses me, they turn on the disco ball, and these lights are flashing, and I'm like, oh, yes, beautiful moment. And the drag queen starts singing, and the music is, and I'm like, I finally figured out where I belong, but I had no clue where I was getting to, no clue. He was 3 years older than me, and he turned out to be a pretty cool guy, except that I had no idea, I had no idea how to handle a relationship, because nobody had taught me how to be in a relationship. My parents had all this time, my parents were married 70 years. My mom just passed away in 2020, but they were married for 70 years. My older sister has been married for like 50-something years, and then, 50, because I was a year old when she got married. And then my other sister's been married for like 30 years. So I come from a long line of relationships. But nobody taught me, and here's why. Because the moment my dad figured out that I was gay, he was like, what can I teach you? I know that he never said it, but he never talked about relationships. We've never had the talk, which is probably why I still don't know what I do half the time. But if you know, you know. That's why you laugh. We've never had the talk. He never talked to me about relationships, about standing up for myself, about understanding what a abusive relationship was. Because I only thought that abusive relationships meant they hit me. Because I've been hit. I've been hit by partners, sexual partners. When they were done with me, I would get hit. So I knew what that was. But he never did it. I didn't know that there was psychological, verbal, emotional. I didn't know how that was affecting my body, mind, and spirit. So I stayed and cheated. And that's when I started doing drugs. Because about that time is when HIV comes into the picture. So let me tell you the story really quick. So I go, I'm working in an office in Dallas. One of our coworkers has TB, and everybody in the office has to go get tested. Everybody know what TB is? Everybody? Right. So I go to the clinic, and the nurse is like, welcome. Now back then in 1990, you could go get tested. You can still do it now, but it's not so strict. But back then, you would give a fake name, because if your insurance or your boss or your landlord found out, you could get fired, kicked out, unfriended. Back then, what was unfriended? So we would give fake names. My friend's name was Frank Jimenez, and I still use this name for a long time. So when I would do a check, I was like, what's your name, Frank Jimenez? And I don't know where he is now. One day he's going to find one of these videos, and he's going to hear his name, and he's going to realize that I've been using his name for 21 years to tell the story. But it was the first time that a nurse or anybody would sit me down and goes, have you ever had anal oral vaginal sex? I'm like, whoa, I'm Catholic, we don't do those things. And then towards like, are you gay, straight, bisexual? I was like, whoa, like, those are really personal. Like, you don't ask that. There are no gay people in Catholicism. And so it was the first time that they asked me these questions. So to get to the point is, they wanted to test me for HIV. So they tested me. They called 2 weeks later to give me my results, and I'm supposed to go to the clinic. And I go to the clinic, I walk in, I sit down, and the nurse gives me some pamphlets. She's like, we're going to have to run another test. I'll be right back, just wait here. Well, the nurse left, and I left too. I didn't want to know. I didn't want to know. I don't want to know if I'm positive, because my parents won't want to be with me. My family's going to kick me out. I lose my job. I'm 20 years old. I'm just starting to date. This is right before the emotional, my rom-com moment. So when I met my partner, I didn't say anything. I didn't say anything. We didn't want to talk about it. So having sex, and even after we broke up, dating, drugs became my best friend. Because if I was a little high, I feel more comfortable. If I was a little drunk, I feel more comfortable. If I had both, oh man, I took over the world. I got this. Unfortunately, drugs and alcohol tend to turn on you after a while. And that's what they did. I ended up, at the very end, I'll jump over all the other stuff. At the very end, I lost my apartment, I lost my car, lost most of my friends. I wasn't talking to my family. I had lost my job. I ended up moving in with a friend of mine. And I think for me, the rock bottom of it all was that my friend had a 3-story house, and his bedroom was in the 3rd story. Second story was the living room, dining room, and on the 1st floor, there were 2 bedrooms. But one of the bedrooms was his dogs. So my roommates were dogs, and nothing against dogs. If you have dogs, this is not a thing against dogs. But I thought, wow, I'm at the same level as dogs. This is where my life is right now. And I ended up doing a couple of things that I shouldn't have done. I ended up going to jail, went to court, and once I went to court, they asked if it was 2 things. You either go to jail for a year, or you go to rehab for 3 months. And again, all of these are affecting my mental health. Because every time you take on a big decision, it just messes with you even more. And your personal value can either go up or down. And that's all dependent on me, right? Now, I thought about it, because I watched Oz on HBO, and I thought, is it that kind of Oz? And the judge was like, no, it's not that kind of Oz. Like, it's rough jail. And I was like, oh, darn. But my probation officer was really cool, and she said, you know what? I suggest that you go to rehab. I didn't have a record. Pardon me. I didn't have a record. I never got in trouble. I was a good little kid. And maybe I didn't get in trouble because I didn't want to get noticed. Because I grew up not being noticed. Does that make sense? I made a career out of keeping out of people's eyesight. Although I am an attention getter. I am. But I always, to this date, I will confess, I'm a brown noser, overachiever, workaholic, and I will one-up you every time. So don't compete with me, don't play games with me, because I will try to beat you. Just put it out there. Let's play Monopoly after this, just saying. And I'm good at Monopoly. So I ended up in rehab, and that's when some of the changes started. So let's turn this story around to some good stuff. Everybody good with that? Everybody good? How's the burrito, by the way? I said everybody stop eating. I got good? I got good? All right. I don't want to traumatize you at 10 o'clock in the morning when I get sued by the school, because everybody's traumatized. I don't have any money, so don't bother. But I'm poor right now. So I go to rehab. I went to rehab. There's a place called Dickinson, Texas, out in Texas. It's right between, maybe from Texas, any Texas people? So no Mexicans and no people from Texas. What kind of school is this? I'm calling somebody. We need more Mexicans and more Texans. But so I go to place. It's if you see a map, it's Houston and Galveston, and Dickinson, Texas is right in the middle. And the joke in Dickinson was that 1/3 of the people were in rehab, the other 1/3 of the people worked at a rehab, and the other 1/3 were stores, because you had to go buy stuff to eat. Anyway, that's just a joke. So I go to rehab. And for the first time, I walk in, I get there, I sat on the couch, and one of the brothers there came over and said, "You're good now, trust us." I've been doing drugs for 16 years, drinking for 21, tired, running away from myself, because I realized that that's what I've been doing. I had been running away from myself. I wanted to be saved by somebody. I wanted somebody to look at me and go, "You're worth it. Just the way you are. Bruises and bumps and warts, and you're so worth it." And nobody had really said that to me. But the moment that God came up to me and said, "Just trust this, man." I fell asleep on the couch. You're not supposed to. I fell asleep on the couch. They woke me up and were like, check your in. Funny thing is, I was reading Roseanne Barr's book, and the part of the book where she talks about drugs, and I had to wait 90 days to finish that book, which irritated me. But 90 days, 28 men in one house. I learned how to throw a football for the first time. I still suck at it, so don't look at me like you want to invite me to football. I suck. I can run, but I can't throw for hell. while. So I learned how to turn on a barbecue and how to grill. I was like, we're Mexicans, we grill all the time, man. It's anything. But my dad was like, no, that's another thing. Go, mom. So I never learned. They taught me how to actually tune up a car. I was like, what? I knew a little bit. But they actually, because my dad also, like, I would try and he'd be like, go help your mom, go do something else. So going back, like, they always fed into my insecurities. Does that make sense? Everybody good? So 90 days in rehab. One of the coolest things about the rehab that I went to was that everybody's heard about 12 steps in AA, right? So the foundation was 12 steps. And I wholeheartedly believe in those, and I still today. But they also taught me how to be spiritual, which for a Catholic, I was like, ¿qué es eso? We're religious, we're not spiritual, kind of thing. But they taught me that it's not just about the mind or the body, it's about the spirit too. My spirit was broken, and I did not know how broken it was. I was always optimistic. Who says that? I'm an optimistic person. I'm positive all the time. I'm awesome. But then inside, your spirit is like, you're not. You're not. Because if you were, you wouldn't need alcohol. Because if you were, you wouldn't need, and I'm not saying occasional drinking. I'm not judging anybody. But for me, I needed alcohol. I needed drugs. I needed sexual validation. Because that's what I've been taught. Does that make sense? That's what I've been taught. And all of a sudden, these dudes that I don't even know, I'm like, you're a bunch of alcoholic and drug addicts. How can you teach me? But they taught me that my spirit needed healing, and I was like, how do I get that? What dollar store can I go to and buy some spiritual healing? Because I was broke then too, so I'm really not broke right now. Don't look at me like I'm poor, but like I can't buy a whole lot of stuff. They helped me. They helped me, and they were like, let's build you up. Let's teach you what your dad didn't teach you. And mind you, there were 27 straight guys, and I was the only gay guy in the house. But they were like, you're a dude, and we love you, and we're going to take care of you, and we're going to build you up. And whatever parts you think are broken, we're going to show you that they're not broken, that's just you. And that slowly, my mental health started to like, wait a minute. You mean I'm cool this way? You mean it's okay that I like big trucks, but I like the pink ones sometimes? But that's okay. That once in a while, I like to sing some Celine Dion in my boots, butch, and mix it up a little bit. You know what I'm talking about. Like it's that mixture of things that most people look at you. My family, my culture, social norms, religion. They're all looking at me going, you're wrong. That's bad. You're wrong. And unbeknownst to them, all that growing up, I just get thinking, I am so wrong that I'm never going to be accepted. I'm never going to fit in. All of a sudden, rehab was like, man, you're cool. After that, my first relationship, everybody good? How are we on time, by the way? 10 minutes. 10 minutes? Wow, that went fast. Everybody good? Any questions right now? No, you did. So my first relationship after rehab, that's the relationship that got me here to California. So I've been in California 13 years now. So my joke about that is that I went from avocado tacos to avocado toast. I don't know why this now, but it makes it cooler. One of the best things that my last boyfriend, the one that I moved here, because I moved here for love, I was still a little broken. So my boyfriend was like, we got an apartment here. I was on a waiting list and he called and the apartment's ready if you want it. And he was like, you want to move? I'm like, let's move. And he had lived here before, so he was like, let's go. And I'm like, I love you, I'll follow you, whatever. And there was no lights, there was no sparkles, there was nothing like that. But I moved, and now I realize it's one of the best things that I could have done. But one of the best things that he told me was, you are perfect in your imperfection. How is that on a t-shirt? Where do we get the bumper sticker for that one? I am perfect in my imperfection. And that has weighed on me in the most beautiful way for the last 13 years. You really understand that? We all have those little sayings for ourselves, like, your freckles are cool, or glasses make you sexy, right? Or good things come in small packages. Because because I'm 5'6", I can say that. Accents are cool. All these little things, and I started to make peace with myself. I'm also a cancer survivor. I'm an anal cancer survivor. I was diagnosed, here's how Mexican I am. Ready? I was diagnosed on Cinco de Mayo. Thank you, yes. And my last day of treatment was 4th of July. You're welcome. That's how American I am too. So this 4th of July, while you're popping fireworks, you think about myself. So you're welcome. That's part of the standard, so just. Hold. Yes. Where I am now, during cancer, I became a Reiki master. I wanted to learn about my body, and I had a teacher. I learned, if anybody knows about Reiki, there's 1, 2, 3, and then the master, so I'm a master. And I had done 1 before cancer, and then my teacher taught me 2, 3, and made me a master after cancer. But I learned about my body. I learned how to take care of my body better. I still don't. I love tacos. I'm a taco person. So the burrito this morning, I was like, it's like you read my mind. I'm not great with myself right now yet. I think COVID played a big part of it too. I think everybody, right? We all got a little lost. We had these big plans at the beginning of 2020. I'm going to 2020. And then March came over and we were like, oh, everybody stopped. But that's when I became a life coach. So I decided to be a life coach during the lockdown. So I'm a life coach now. I got certified to be, I'm a nationally certified HIV facilitator and trainer now. So you're welcome. Which I'll come back and teach here this year. When we have a class coming up soon. Yeah, so where I am now in the last 5 minutes, I'll tell you this. There are days when I'm still broken. There are days when I wake up and my body is like, remember you have HIV, and remember you have an ostomy bag, and remember you have basically no butt. Remember that sometimes your relationship sucks. Because I have a boyfriend, we've been together for 10 years. And sometimes things get hard. And today is a little particularly hard, which is why I agreed to do Sunday, because it's Mother's Day, and my mom passed away a couple years ago. So if you're Latino, you know how big that day is. And then not only that, but then we have to think about it May 10th. Because for those of you who don't know, in Latin America, May 10th is Mother's Day. So not only today, but then on the 10th, I think about it again. Which I'll probably go ahead backwards in her honor or something. But I get to do this. And the positive side of it is that I'm 51 years old. That's cool. I'm HIV positive, but I do a lot of campaigns and I work with it. So I've used that as a positive thing in my life. Check. Cancer talks. I just did some big campaigns for cancer. Check. Latino stuff. I get to do a lot of Spanish stuff. Check. Talk to younger people and somehow, hopefully I've taught you something today. If nothing else, I've made you laugh. Check. I have the resources and the tools that when I wake up in the morning and I'm like, life sucks. That the other side of my brain goes, really? Let's analyze this for a minute. How does it suck? Well, because I don't want to go work today. Oh, poor you. So I get to, you know what I mean? I still do it. I still go to work because I'm a workaholic and I want to show up. And damn it, the days that I don't want to work, I show up 20 minutes earlier than everybody just to show them how awesome I am. Just kidding. Everybody good? Everybody good? Do we still have for the Q&A or are we done after this?
You still have 6 minutes.
6 minutes? We're done? That's it?
Yeah, and then we're going to go into workshops.
Gotcha. So, questions? Any questions? Anybody? Yes?
How did you reconcile Catholicism with, being gay? Because that can be hard.
How do I reconcile being gay and Catholicism? Well, they have great robes and the crowns are pretty cool. Kidding. I met gay priests. Is that my time? You're fine, don't worry. But I had to call you out. I had to. I met priests on Facebook, and particularly gay priests. And I had conversations and I was like, look, I believe in the message, I don't always believe in the people. And they were like, that's cool. I was also we weren't God is going to punish you thing. He just always was watching. Like, Dios está viendo. And then I realized that I missed that part of my life, like the good parts, not the judgy parts. Although the judgy parts helped me keep me in line when I needed it. Does that make sense? Like I knew I was doing wrong. Like I knew drugs were wrong, but I still did it. That's another story. But I knew that for me, I needed a balance of spirituality and religion to keep me going. I knew that to do my work as a spiritual coach, as a Reiki master, I needed to tap into God and the universe. And then those friends, those priests told me, like, it's cool. Like, there is no competition. It's not one over the other. They're both good. But it's okay to take what you want. Buffet, that's the word I lost. It's like a spirituality buffet. And you show up and they tell you all the things that are there. The 10 Commandments, the do's and don'ts, the own your body, the be good to yourself. And you get to pick what you want. We all do. And it may not be stuff from Catholicism. I've gone to Jewish, I've gone to Baptist, I've gone to different ones. I go, oh, I like that. I'll take that. Put it on. And then in the mornings I pray and I meditate. And that's a good balance. Does that make sense? But it's cool. Plus, if you've ever been to a Mexican church, man, it gets pretty cool. There's like cool music. The potluck afterwards is pretty cool. Right? Anybody else have a question? Any questions? I don't want to leave you with anything. I do have business cards, so I would be happy to give you a business card afterward. Did you have a question? Oh, no. I hope you don't have questions because I said a lot.
Oh, there's a question over here.
Yes, sir.
Did your relationship with your parents improve over time?
Yes. So when I was diagnosed because I was originally diagnosed with AIDS when I was diagnosed, they thought I was going to die. I was 110 pounds and very sick. At that point, my mom and I had already made peace with me being gay. My mom was never mad that I was gay. She was upset. Oh, because I came out when I was 17. I skipped that part. I came out when I was 17. She was never mad that I was gay. She was mad that I didn't trust her enough to tell her about it. Because she would always ask me, Nicole, is there something you want to tell me? And I'd be like, no, everything's cool. And I knew what she meant, so the next day I had a girlfriend. And I would purposely walk my girlfriend in front of my sister's house so they could see her. And then like 2 days later we break up. And I would tell them, like, look, I'm going to take you out, I'm going to feed you, I'm going to show you off, but then it's a 3-day thing and we're done. Once I got really sick and I think I was going to die, my mom and I talked, and towards the end, before she started losing her memory, we were confidants and we were friends. I made friends with my mom. I never understood that. How can you make friends with your mom? That's weird. But then I became friends with my mom. My dad and I are a different story. My dad still refers to my boyfriend as tu amigo, your friend. Like, how's your friend? He's good, Dad. ¿Cómo se llama? Like, we've been together 10 years, Dad. His name's Kristen. Oh, yeah. Okay, whatever. But then I had to pray about that. Do I keep encouraging the conversation or do I just let it go? And for my own mental health, I had to let it go. Sometimes you just have to cut the conversation short. They live in Texas, though, so I like them and I love them enough to visit them. I don't like them enough to visit all the time. But that's part of my mental health. And it's really hard because as Latinos, you are told that you need to respect your elders. And you're la familia es todo. Family is everything. So it's really hard to fight that. But I have some really great friends here. Okay, so here's the other part. For every space that my parents were not able to fill, I found people to do it for them. So I have some amazing women in my life. I have some amazing women in my life that live here in California that fit those spaces. Now that my mom is gone, like there's a friend that I can talk to and I can cry. I'm like, hey, I just in the pie. And I have a friend that I call and I'm like, hey, she's a great cook. I'm like, I need a recipe for this. Like, how do you do it? And I have another friend that she's my comadre, and we go out shopping, and that's what I used to do with my mom sometimes. My mom loved dollar stores because we would come home with a bunch of stuff. And even for my dad, I have found some very amazing friends, guys, that when I need that space filled, I call them. And they know their place. I mean, they're all great friends, but they know, like, you're my best friend because you can help me with my car. You're my best friend because you give me great advice. Like, you know what I mean? And my boyfriend is not my best friend across the board, and he knows that. He's my partner, he's my best friend, we laugh together, but there are times that I need dad. And my dad's 91, and I know I can't have him anymore. So I have found people to fill in those spaces. But my mom lost her memory a year before I went to rehab. So she never got to see me clean and sober as an adult. And that's one of the things, we're talking about mental health, that's one of the things that's still a trigger for me. It really bugs me. It bugs me that she never got to see me succeed. And, but, you know, that's one thing there's no get out of that one. Does that make sense? Did I answer your question? Yeah. So fill the spaces. I know I'm out of time. I'll leave you with this. Life is a dodgeball game. Everybody's playing dodgeball. Life is a dodgeball game. It throws balls at you constantly, and there always seems to be more people on the outside than on your side. Sometimes you catch those balls, and you need to celebrate those. Just celebrate the hell out of it. And sometimes it's going to bump you up the head. So walk away for a minute and just give yourself a little rest. I would love to tell you that life gets easier when you leave college. It just gets more real. It gets more real. The friendships you're making now, stick to those. Do good or bad. If you're not using anything to make you happier, don't do it. And laugh. Because that's what got me through all my life, is just laughing at myself. So keep on. Thank you guys.